Good morning, everyone. Welcome to 2025 Libertarian Party of Minnesota State Conventions, live from St. Cloud, Minnesota, Courtyard at Mary. Commencement will start shortly. Yep.
In a million years of seeing getting in. The earlier years in life, literally sheriff dispatch from jail. All of my one medical doing all these things. That's a reason why it's such an ordinance without a public hearing. It's just a way to talk to me, just the like the law is not self-executing. And if you don't have either the resources or the ability to defend your rights in court, then you don't have rights. Stuff that's been done against us has been so egregious. I personally had my First Amendment grossly violated in this case that I'm going to the hearing for, but it happened at the National Convention. They submitted claims to the court that they got an ex parte motion for an injunction, a temporary restraining order against myself and my secretary, and forced us to submit an invalid delegate post, which changed outcomes of the National Convention. We were barred from even speaking against the submission of that list. So just gross First Amendment violations against the political parties. And now they're trying to back away from that and just like kind of sweep that part under the rug and just make these tactics. I've since decided that we've had profile against pretty double 50 of their offices. Maybe done. Against your bar license. Oh, they literally choose it top down as far as the yeah. You want it out? I'm definitely going to be looking into opportunities. There's a couple of things that I find really questionable about this attorney's conduct. I don't know that it rises to the level where I can make a bar complaint. Probably not, but might be two different things, but believe it or not, they do also lose points for support. Even if they're not all there. Yeah, there's definitely a few things that we're going to be investigating as time allows. They're taking very much advantage of the fact that we are prioritizing party activities over illegal stuff. That's exactly what it is. Yeah. When they followed up right after the convention, obviously we're going to escalate. They amended the case, added a bunch of new plaintiffs, a bunch of new defendants, which they had no legitimate claims against. But they just lied again. Their basis of their claims and affecting outcomes for things. And they've made no assertion. They've made no claims other than just the assertion that actions were wrongly supported with nothing. And it was
So when you fight those things, you made an assertion that they haven't substantiated. You fight that with these.
I think we won the judges' attention a little bit with some. So we argued against the amendment of the case that they did, and we didn't have valid legal grounds to block it. But in the hearing over the amendment, he made a couple of comments that we've kind of been reading between the lines. We think that this is actually the second case in front of this judge, and the first one is the one I was between one time, and he very like in that case, they basically just like attacked me personally. Talked about how helpful I was and like the underhand tactics. I've definitely used the rules to my advantage. Unashamedly, happily. And so these guys, well, within the party stuff, I mean, I've definitely worked the rules. Yeah. And so essentially in the court case, I just laid out the bylaws arguments because this case is basically a breach of contract claim that we violated our bylaws. So it's all just adjudicating whether our actions are proper under our bylaws. And in the first case, the judge, in light of all their attacks against me, were like, I think you are acting authoritarianly, but you did follow your rules. So he basically said in that case, in the ruling, he was like, don't think I like you, but I have to rule in your favor. And they were making claims at the time that were right against their judicial committee, claiming our judicial committee failed. And then what happened going into DC, our judicial committee finally acted, and they claimed it was against the bylaws. So essentially, they had laid the groundwork in that first case to kind of get the judge's attention. And then they sprung on the day I was leaving to drive to DC. The claim, and they said that our JC decided on a full block, with no basis for their decision.
Just letting your daughter know what you're talking
And they went to the judge and they told him that where bank's getting started.
Is it turned on behind you in the window? No, in the window is all the controls for it behind you. So it may not be powered up yet.
All right, if everybody can take their seats for a minute, so we can go ahead and get started.
You did a little mic check. He's trying to set your volume.
Can you hear me? Okay. Oh, good job. I don't know, Kimberly, is this good? Thumbs up in the back? Okay. We are going, I don't know about a thing, but we're going to go ahead and call this convention to order. And the time is now. All right, so time 10:20. We're going to go ahead and call the convention to order. So first on the agenda is my welcome speech. And I'm really sorry I didn't come up with something like super official, but I just want to tell you guys how much I appreciate everybody being here. If you just want to spend the next few minutes just being love bombed, that'd be great. Thank everybody that has been consistent in the party and showed up and has just been doing the work for the last year. Like, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for every minute and thing that you put into this party and did, because it relies on all of you and us working together. So I wanted to thank you for that. I wanted to very specifically point out to Joey and Eric. And also, where you went? Oh, there you are. Okay, sorry. And then also Chip for all the work that he put in, especially with the campaign, because the moment wasn't necessarily how you wanted to spend the summer, but we did it anyways. And then, hi, there's so many people. What's Bill? Oh yeah, Nick got our website up and going. That was amazing. Bill, keeping the IT stuff, we got a new CRM done last year, and so we've been, or not we, I say, not we as an I, we as in them, have been working very hard on getting the CRM functional and getting all that upgraded. So that was amazing. Thank you. Let's see what else. Oh, and the other thing I just wanted to say too, and I know that politics is a very high fatigue endeavor, and that there are, if you need to take a break and step out and regain your mental health, do what you got to do, because this is very draining, and the challenges that we have in front of us, just for the system, the state, the federal government, all that kind of stuff, those are so great. So it's very easy to get tired. If you need to take a step out, absolutely do that. Just be ready to come back and be refreshed when the time comes, because the people eventually, and this is, I think one of the lessons that I learned when I was in the Army was that what keeps you going isn't necessarily what your things are in front of you. While those goals are, those are good and those are things that we should just keep trying to achieve, eventually you got to keep going because of the people to the right and the left of you. So the relationships that we have and the commitment that we have to each other and the things that keep us together, that's what's going to keep us going through all the hard times. So that's my speech. But let's see, what else on the agenda? And it was a very busy year. I did say talk about that. Okay, so we have a credentialing report. Joey. Oh, there's Joey.
There are currently 30 voting members signed in attendance.
So we have 30 voting members signed in for attendance this year. And then the adoption of the agenda. Has everybody had a chance to look at that? Are there any questions for the agenda? There are two things that I would like to add to it. So we're going to do these amendments one at a time. We had one of our speakers cancel last minute, Diego Rivera, from the Defend the Guard movement. And he had to cancel because there's over 30 states that the National Defend the Guard people are managing with active legislation nationwide, and they just couldn't fit in a state convention this year. So they had to cancel that. I mean, that's good news. That's good reason why it couldn't come. However, after we printed the agenda, we did have last minute confirmation of somebody else that was going to take his spot. So Representative Drew Roach, who's the author of the House bill in the state, he's going to come and speak in Diego's space. However, that's not the agenda. So I am looking for a friendly amendment to the agenda to add Representative Drew Roach to our convention, convention agenda at 5 o'clock. If somebody could make that motion. All right. And Jake made the motion and Keith seconded it. Does anybody have any need for discussing or questions? All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? No? Perfect. Motion carries. Thank you. The other second amendment to the agenda is that we have our LNC rep, Andrew Chatterton, in attendance today. And during the reports, we would like to hear about LNC stuff. I know. Anyways. So we don't have that in the agenda either. So I need a motion from the floor to add Andrew Chatterton to our agenda, which would be literally in a few minutes, between 10 and 10:45, to give an LNC report. So we can make the motion.
So moved.
All right. Keith, the other Keith, technically have to go.
Second.
And then Jason. Is there any need for discussion? Questions? All right, I am not seeing any, so all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. All right. Now we get the, oh, that was to amend the agenda. Now we're going to adopt the agenda. Now I need a motion to adopt the agenda. All right, raise your, who said that first? All right, Chip. And then Sean Sullivan. I knew that. I can't remember my kid's name, so you're secondary.
You guys want me to be adding name, so
All right, any questions? All in favor say aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? Adoption or agenda is adopted. All right, next is the treasurer's report. Joey, you're up.
Oh.
Have to come to the speaker.
Who signed in on that? I can get credit from whoever signed. Harrison. Yeah.
No. Sure.
Is it not an LPMN book? All right, should be in Cherokee.
Yeah. Flew in Thursday.
All right, now it's Sheriff on both your. Thank you. Oh, no. All right,
You from there.
Now you look at Freddie Mercury.
too strong for my own good. All right, could you, hit the next tab, 2024 cash balance trend? I'm gonna spare everybody the ridiculous sheets, but I'm not going to spare you the ridiculous charts. So, over the last, over calendar year 2024, the party took in about as much money as it spent, not necessarily month over month, but over the whole span. So we're pretty stable in that regard. Okay, next chart. Our revenue trends are, could you F11? F11. That's not that close. Yes. Well, sorry, people. Okay. Yeah. There it is. Should you? Okay, I can't show you both the graphics. Good. Delete system 32. All right. So the majority of our revenue has come from our conventions, actually, which is in correspondence with convention being one of the largest spends of the year. We also had a bump in general donations in July that corresponds with, next slide, please. That corresponds with a large expense that we did for petitioning. We did petitioning efforts for, we did paid petitioning efforts for presidential candidate in Minnesota. Also, the access that was given to another state party for their presidential petitioning efforts. If you could jump back to the revenues. One thing we're going to need to work on a lot this year is membership. Membership revenue started out, I mean, beginning of the year, there's always going to be people who do annual memberships right before convention. So that's a big part of this. But this is sort of more of our baseline, and our baseline's been going down. Started recovering in December, but we're not back where we need to be yet. So that's going to be one of our big efforts this year is membership drive. I don't have, go back to expenses one time. In January, we rolled out the new CRM, as Rebecca mentioned, and there was an initial upfront cost for that, but the digital infrastructure recurring expense did go up as a result of that. It was offset by no longer having a paid executive director position, which is something we may want to revisit in the future, but for now, until we get our memberships back where we need them to be, we're only going to be considering paid positions if it is specifically revenue-driven position. I think I've got basically everything that I need out of that. I could read off the December 31st balance of the accounts, but that's it's 2.5 months out of date at this point. I don't think anybody needs it.
Does anybody have any questions?
Ross?
Just kind of a comment here. I was planning to do a little project on things like sign up, you know, in PayPal for a membership, and that they automated spot. So,
well, at the moment we are trying to get everybody switched over to HubSpot payments. A, automatic integration. B, slightly more affordable fees than PayPal.
well, that's great.
Yeah. All right. Other questions? Chip? Oh, yes, I forgot to mention that there was can you switch back to revenue again? That bump right there in December came almost entirely from political contribution refunds, the state reimbursement program for political contributions. And I have to give a big shout out to Chip for getting the language together for that. I know that it was a team effort, Chip, Bill, myself, others. But Chip, thank you very much for helping out with that. I know that you personally have had a difference of opinion with whether people should take advantage of that program in the past. But I know. Uh-huh. Isn't that what we call it? All right, any other questions? Chip again. Well, that's because that particular quote unquote transparency organization is so stupid as to believe that every Anthony Williams is the same as every other Anthony Williams. So they think that our former executive director happens to be Representative Chuck Schumer. Not true.
Are you sure?
Yes. I am confident the Chuck Schumer campaign wouldn't hire AJ. He's a great dude, but he's not a fit for their organization. Any other questions? Well, I think I'm going to turn it back over to the chair.
And now for the outreach report. So, want to hold it.
Okay, so we had 2024 was a political election year, and our outreach was kind of tailored to that. So we had some good outreach events. We were at State Fair, which is our biggest outreach event, of course, 12 days. I was there for 10 of them. We had several dozen volunteers. I appreciate that. That's our biggest and best outreach event. Both in terms of telling the public about our candidates and also for membership growth. So appreciate everyone who volunteered at the State Fair. And I look forward to more people volunteering at the State Fair next year. We were also at 3 county fairs this year. That fit in well with the political petitioning effort. We were able to get several signatures at our county fair presences. We were in Washington County, Beltrami County, and Scott County. We're also at Pride Fest. We were at Granville and St. Paul. So a good year for outreach. 2025 is not an election year, so our outreach this year will be targeted for it. That's it.
Great. Thank you, Eric. Political director. Then we'll do LNC representative after that. Let's hear it.
Okay, hey everyone. Our biggest accomplishment last year was retaining minor party status. We needed 1% of the vote in a statewide race. That came through at 1.73% for U.S. Senate. So, by the way, she set 2 state party records. She had the highest percentage of votes in the Senate race and the highest number of votes in any statewide race, 55,215 Minnesotans. Now, Rebecca couldn't have done this if she wasn't on the ballot. So thanks to all who collected signatures. We literally needed every day to get the job done. By the way, I looked up Randall thing for next year, or 2026. It falls outside of our petition. I'm going to give us lower marks though for our petition efforts for Chase Out. It's fair to say he wasn't everyone's preferred candidate for president, but he was our candidate. As the state affiliate, it's our job to get the nominee on the ballot. Despite having about 3 months to collect the same number of signatures that we collected for Rebecca in 2 weeks, we still needed out-of-state help. We are the party that preaches personal responsibility, and we couldn't do it on our own. Infamously, other state affiliates actively worked against Chase, and even more participated in a joint fundraising agreement to support a rival candidate, not Minnesota. We would remain true to our mission to serve as a political party for libertarians. Yay us. Let's talk about a couple of small victories. Show of hands, how many of you have legal sized paper? How many wouldn't have had it except for petitioning the minutes? Okay. That's why what I'm about to say is an important victory. So for years, one impediment to the collection of signatures has been the stupid legal sized form. Fortunately, because of our efforts, the Secretary of State finally posted a letter sized form, which we used for Rebecca and TJ. Each of you was able to download the form, print it out, and hit the streets. But the Secretary of State did not mock up a letter sized form for the presidential nominee petition. Can't fault them on this entirely. Petition form has a lot more content. So I'll be honest, we took a gamble. I took it upon myself to design a form that met the statutory requirements, and we collected 100% of our signatures on this form. Thankfully, the Secretary of State accepted it. And so now we should feel comfortable doing that again for 4 years. Another small victory. Yeah, for those of you who petition, this is actually, it's gonna make it fast. Another small victory relates to special elections. Whenever there is a vacancy in the legislature, the governor issues a writ, which sets the rules for the special election. First, Charlie. When Charlie ran for the open seat 52B, the governor gave us 1 week to collect signatures. And we griped about it because the standard period is 2 weeks. But we were able to get the job done. The governor's next 4 writs, though, provided only 1 or 2 day collection periods. And that made it all but impossible for minor and independent candidates to get onto the ballot. One of those writs was in House District 40B, where a vacancy arose because the DFL fielded a candidate who didn't live in the district. The governor screwed up too, because he issued his writ prematurely. The GOP called him on it. The LPMN filed an amicus brief supporting the GOP. We amplified the GOP's secondary argument, which was that even if the writ had been timely issued, it violated another statutory requirement that said writs must be posted in 5 days' notice. The Minnesota Supreme Court forced the governor to issue a new writ. While we were waiting for him to do that, I personally delivered a letter to him, to his office, and to the Secretary of State to advise that we will file suit if he ever introduces another writ that fails to meet the statutory 5 days notice. Lo and behold, the new writ came out, and it met that fair requirement. Turns out Republicans and Democrats want more time for their candidates to file special elections. They need more than a day to decide to run, to deliver the paperwork to whatever office to file for a race. They're so upset, in fact, that they introduced a bill to lengthen the candidate filing period in special elections. It would match the standard 2-week period where practical, and at the very least provide 7 days. This would be good for us. And I jumped at the opportunity to testify in support of it as a small step in a positive direction, while emphasizing our primary objective is to remove the obstacle of petitioning period. Even 2 weeks isn't enough time in rural areas. Which brings us back to minor party status. It gives us prestige. It gives us access to revenues, as Joey mentioned, the PCR program, but also the tax checkoff on when you file your state income tax. But I'd say most importantly, it lays the ground for us to get access to the ballot without petitioning. What do I mean by this? For years, we thought the best way to avoid petitioning was to achieve major party status. well. We saw what the DFL did when the weak parties had the gall to qualify. They moved the goalposts. The DFL upped the threshold from 5% to 8%. They now require certification of 8 congressional and 45 county or legislative district conventions, and you have to have executive committees, the same number of political units. And at spite, they yanked major party status from the legal marijuana now part, simultaneously taking them to the Minnesota Supreme Court and changing the law retroactively. You know what I learned? Besides the DFL hates us, and probably the GOP too, we actually do not want major party status. That's right, don't want major party status. Why? Major party candidates are selected in the open primary process. That sounds appealing at first blush. You pay the modest fee, you're on the ballot. But consider this, anyone could do that. With 201 seats in the Minnesota legislature, we're bound to be victims of shenanigans, whether it be at the hands of DFL or GOP infiltrators, or by non-libertarians who are even wackier than we. We vet our candidates. If you want to run under the LPMN banner, you're going to need to get our endorsement. It's on us if we screw up and nominate somebody who isn't a real libertarian. You'll hear from the Platform and Bylaws Committee on proposals to make it more difficult for bad actors to swoop in, take over the party. Then they can do mischief such as nominating people who aren't libertarians. With the primary system, there is no protection. Let's face it, convincing the legislature to do us a solid is a tough hill to climb. They keep moving the goalposts, so that will never be a major party. But there is an opportunity to convince them to give us access to the ballot without petitioning as a minor party. Here's my pitch. Point 1, we shame them with facts. Minnesota is arguably the 49th worst state in terms of ballot access rules. Alabama, they're hopeless. Their threshold is 20%. They have horrible petition. 3 states have 10 to 15% statewide vote thresholds, but less onerous petition. 21 states have statewide thresholds at 5% or less. 7 states have easy ballot access. But here's the most relevant comparison. Minnesota is among 17 states that have major and minor political parties. As for qualifying as for major party status, Minnesota ranks in the middle with at 8%. Fine, heck, they raise it to 10%. But in all of the 16 other states, the minor party candidates have earned access to the general election ballot without petition. That's what we want to. Yes, if you've been keeping count, left out one state to get to 50, it's New Mexico. They also have major and minor party status, and they have petitioning too. But even on that, their major party status is lower and their minor party status is lower. So all of this it's complicated to explain. But it's just not a good look for Minnesota to outrank Alabama in allowing voters to have more choices. So point 2, I suggest we tell them something on which we agree. Ballots shouldn't be cluttered with excessive numbers of candidates. And the 1% threshold is an appropriate test for identifying the most legitimate party organizations. Just 2 parties met the 1% threshold in the last election, us and the Independence Alliance Party. Several others failed, including the Green and RFK's We the People. Point 3, we tell them they can keep all the public subsidies they want for their candidates, We don't want that benefit that comes with major party status. Point 4, and sorry to cover this, we won't participate in the open primary process, so there won't be any faux candidates running under our banner. Everyone benefits from limiting shenanigans. But point 5 is appeal to the divide. Minnesota is rightfully proud for often leading the nation in voter turnout, and we could raise our numbers even higher if people who like messaging of minor parties had a reason to cast their vote instead of staying at home. I have drafted legislation to give minor parties access to the general election without petitioning. I shared it with election committee leaders in the House and the Senate. At that hearing on extending candidate filing periods in special elections, I drew attention to it in my testimony. Following the hearing, I spoke with committee members, including Mike Freiberg. Some might recall was the chair of the elections committee. He's going to be co-chair probably after next week again as well. Our new friend on the defendant guard legislation, Representative Drew Roach, has the bill. Perhaps we can get him to talk. In any event, we see this as a legislative initiative that we're going to have to work on in the next few years. So last plea, it's absolutely vital that we get 1% of the vote for a statewide candidate in 2026, even though we have another shot in 2028. The reason is this: the only statewide ballot on the statewide race on the ballot 2028 is for president. There's always a lot of competition for that race. In 2026, we have 5 statewide races. I hate to say this, but we can't pin our hopes on the U.S. Senate race, even if Rebecca runs again as an experienced campaigner. This race is shaping up to be a toss. Fewer Republican EFL voters are going to toss us their vote, not this race. The same probably applies for governor. So to get to 1%, to retain our minor party status, we absolutely must field a candidate for a race like auditor, attorney general, or secretary of state. Don't need to identify a candidate today, but we need to be ready this time next year and hit the ground. That's my report.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yes. Question. Oh, can you make that? Is that big enough? Yeah. Should have brought your glasses. So now we have our representative, Andrew Chatterton, to come make his.
Hello, everyone. Can everyone hear me? What's up? Good. All right. So yeah, it's definitely my honor to come back out this year again and visit the Libertarian Party of Minnesota. Very glad to be here to visit everyone. So this year, for the first time, I'm doing so as a representative of the NC for Region 1. So I'm happy to be here to give a report on behalf of the day. As everyone is probably aware to some degree or another, there's been a lot of things happening, a lot of changes in the National Committee of late. Started off in the last few months with changes to our region representation, which I moved myself from an alternate position into one of the representative spots, as well as the other representative changing as well. And then more recently, we had change of our national chair. So I know a lot of people are kind of like head spinning a lot of the questions and all that. I try to spare all the details of everything like that. I'm happy to answer questions if there are specific questions on those fronts. But I think more valuable would be generally kind of talk about a lot of things that I've been very positive and optimistic for going forward with all of that. So I will say is, out of kind of the controversies that happened with the changes in our region leadership, one of the things I've been really inspired by the way that in our communications between our region, particularly our state chairs within the region, coming together and putting kind of heads and resources together to look at ways that we can all grow and benefit as a region has been very inspiring, motivating, despite a lot of frustration with controversies that happen politically in the party. I definitely want to encourage, even where if people are kind of disenchanted with things, with problems and infighting, things like that, to look for areas where we can have that positive growth and cooperation among different elements of the party and all that. Definitely seen a lot of that. Very excited for the possibilities of our states within Region 1 getting together. We have a very large region. I think it's 15 states involved. Very unique situation to the party, I think. And the people that have gotten to know through the region now, working together on that, it's been very motivating. We have a lot of really talented people from different states around the country. I look forward to the opportunities that can come from. Additionally, I'm very excited about the ongoing work with our candidate support committee at national. We are very privileged, I would say, in Region 1 that the other representatives that recently took office on the LC along with myself is Mr. Mayor Aaron Lamb from Colorado. He is also the chair of our candidate support committee. And from what I'm hearing from all the work that committee's been doing, I'm very optimistic about the benefits that it will bring to state parties in the future. And we've already seen some of that in recent election cycles. Tools like voter gravity, which I hope you guys have been aware of and hope have been able to take advantage of. If not, I'm certainly happy to help connect anybody with those resources. And generally, I think with the new region leadership team, we're very optimistic, and we're building our communication structures with our states and want to make sure that we are in regular communication, that we hear from you guys. I know I've heard a lot of sentiment kind of that, people here are generally just focused on state business, and I totally understand and appreciate that approach for it. But one of my goals in working with the national party is that I think the national party can really do a lot to bring benefits to states and bring the economies of scale to bear to help enable activities at the state level that might otherwise be cost prohibitive or otherwise out of reach. So I look forward to continue working with all of our state chairs, including Rebecca. I hope wish her my support for re-election today. And but either way, we'll be working closely with the state chairs, and I think we'll have a very hopefully positive, successful maintenance term with the LNC. So I'm happy to take any questions if anyone has a note, or I'll be here all weekend. So if anyone has any questions about it, I'm very happy to speak with anybody and answer anything if anybody wants to hear some more detailed explanations or questions or anything like that about anything going on. So does anybody have any questions that they would like to ask? All right. Well, thank you again very much for having me out this weekend, and looking forward to a great remainder of your convention.
Real quick, this still on? Now is it still on? No. Okay, apparently it time's up. Forgot to add something earlier, so I just want to cover that now real quick, and then I'm going to turn it over to Chip. We have a couple of groups here today that are, feel free to go and talk to them. In fact, please do. That we have the LEA, the Legislative Evaluation Assembly. They're here today. The group that just walked in is the Wrongfully Incarcerated and Oversentenced Family Council. They're a nonprofit group here that works on justice issues. We also have the American Experiment is coming later. Minnesota Justice Coalition. They're also coming. They're not here yet, but they will be here too. So they'll have their information along the tables in the back. Just please go ask as many questions you would like. And I would love to see their participation and be able to work on coalitioning with them and issues in the future. So, give them a warm welcome. Anyways, I am going to turn this over to Chip just here for a minute.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is to elect a chair to lead us the next 2 years. Are there any nominations? Yeah, Mitch nominates and Toby seconds. Are there additional nominations for chair? Okay, I will close nominations. We do schedule the question and answers. And so Rebecca, would you take some questions from, group? Who has a question for Rebecca? Mr. Goodlands.
Top 5. Okay. First, I do accept nomination. So, top 5 are, and we've so the division directors and we meet on a monthly basis. And so one of the things that we have talked about is defend the guard legislation. We've been working very hard, especially the last 6 weeks or so, to make sure that that's, getting the word out and keeping active and working on really being the squeaky wheel in Minnesota. And everybody I talk to, I'm like, you can quit hearing from me as soon as you pass this bill. Like that's how this works. So defending our legislation, that's one. Ballot access issues, that's another one. To be able to not have to petition at all, that's a goal. And I have a conversation currently going with Representative Roach in that manner also. He did say he's willing to author that bill for us in the House. He said yes. So we need to talk about that later. I had talked to you about that. For me specifically, and this is how I really started getting my feet wet in politics, is food freedom issues. So there's a number of bills specifically with raw milk legalization in Minnesota, which would really alter, small ag and farmers markets across the state if we were able to get passed. What I would like to see passed. And so I have a couple of people that have said they're interested in taking that bill forward also. So that's ongoing work. And with that, it's not just raw milk legalization. It would be deregulating like meat producers across the state, because agriculture is just their regulations in all aspects are just killing family farms and destroying your ability to be able to get food freely and who you want to from, just regardless of what it is. So, and egg prices, you guys all know what those are like right now. This is one of those results, right? My next one would be, and I'm going to count that as 2 because I wasn't prepared for 5, but I did have 4 justice issues. So I've been working with a couple of people on, and they're kind of setting up information. So really, I hope that you guys take the time and go and learn about these people and who they're trying to help specifically, because these people have names and lives they're losing while they're sitting in prison. So I would really love to see our party working towards, justice issues, specifically in northern Minneapolis, in the metro, places that are just, underreached. Nobody's talking, I don't think, in an adequate fashion to be able to really make a personal difference in the lives in the metro. I think this is where a lot of parties fail. The Democrats are just, feel free to steamroll people for their votes, and the Republicans just say nothing. And then for us, our responsibility is to get to know these people and to be part of who they are in their daily lives. And that's how we make a real difference, long-lasting, impactful, multi-generational difference. So those are the technically 5 things. Do you may have any other questions? That was an easy one, so if somebody wants to ask a hard one. Yes.
Your plan for
So membership has been a constant problem in the last few years. It's not just our state, it's every state in the party. And we have, I keep losing track of Eric. Where's, oh no, you're still there. Okay, sorry. We have talked about doing, specifically working on growing membership for in the future. And so we've been waiting for after convention to really kind of kick the ball off rolling for that. So now that this is here, we're going to start on that tomorrow. What that looks like specifically, we're going to be doing some brainstorming, but that is the main priority coming up because if you notice in the room, we have 30 people here today that are coming part of this convention. Last year we had 55. Before that, it was 100. And I do think at this point in time that a little controversy within the party is healthy. It keeps people coming. So if anybody wants to like do something to help, with that, that'd be great. Don't just be like totally friends all the time, like butt heads every once in a while. It gets people to show up. So yeah. So anything else? I would actually like, and I was kind of hoping somebody would ask this, but y'all are too nice. Things I wish I'd done differently. I feel like that when I became chair, and it's been like about 18 months, something that's been less than 18 months, that this has been, I had no idea what I was doing. Like I've never been chair of a state party ever. And, there was a lot of turnover during that time. And I remember standing up here and just being super nervous. My hands were shaking and I was like, oh, I don't know what to say. And it's gotten a little better, I think, like speaking to people. I don't have a script in front of me anymore, like needing to keep track of things. So in that way, I think that I've done personal growth and being more, being willing to be more bold. So yesterday I went to the Beltrami Republicans and was able to confront my local representatives, which are Representative Matt Bliss and Representative Vidal Duran, directly about defend the guard legislation, and then stood up in a room full of potentially hostile people to, what the Libertarian Party is, and talk to them and, needing to address this in a public manner, and did so without having a panic attack. That was nice. So in that way, I think that I've grown a little bit, and I'm not where I want to be for a state party. But there's still opportunity, and so just know that, like in the future, should I not get noted, that I would still be working on it, and trying to kind of grow and mature in that aspect, so that we can be as a party more competitive. Jason.
What is your biggest frustration as chair currently, or in the last 18 months since you've taken over as chair?
So my biggest frustration with chair is like we have a very small core group of people doing a lot of work, and a few people are wearing a lot of hats. And I don't necessarily know what's keeping them going, but I know what's keeping me going. And that strictly is, I don't know how to quit. And I think that that's also the case for those of us that really have been like that core group. Now, the frustration lies is that we need more of us, and we need more of us that are willing to be full in, full throttle, completely committed all the time. Taking a break is fine, and sometimes that's necessary. I do that too. I picked up a hobby to kind of help. A hobby where I get to punch people, so it helps take out frustrations. But that, that's what we need is we need more people that are actively working and fully committed to what our jobs are and what our goals are. Timed out? It's about 5 to 10 minutes. You gotta turn back on. But that's what we need. So my frustration would be with that. We need help. And that's how we grow. We can have good ideas, but without help, we're not going to go very far. Yes.
do you consider people donating as help to the cause, or are you looking for just boots on the ground, or a
Both.
combination of both?
Yeah, combination both.
Yeah.
It just turned right.
I do have a wireless here. Do you want? That's,
Yeah, no, it's blinking.
All
I
right.
do want to,
Give me a second.
may just need to be, I can talk really loud, but it may just need to be replaced. I'm sorry, what was the question again?
So are you looking specifically for boots on the ground, donations, combination of both?
Yeah,
What is your overall thought on that?
so the question is, what do we need as a party? Financial, help, boots on the ground donations, that kind of stuff. And really the answer is both. Our financials, while they're stable, when we grow in the future, we're going to need to have the, financial ability to keep up with that pace. And so I know that times are tight right now. And so everybody that's donating, that's great. That's super helpful. If you have extra and if you feel comfortable doing it, just consider maybe becoming a legacy member. That's $50 a month. And it's for us as a party, it's very helpful. But also boots on the ground. Like we just, in both ways, we need both.
Thank you.
Yep.
Like great stuff.
Yes.
And so I think it's a full time to be able to introduce a third option that shows the differences of the party system.
Yes.
So members,
Well, so our membership is only, like, to be a member, it's $5 a month. So very doable in that aspect. But we do require membership to be on, at least on the executive committee, and I'm assuming it's for the same way with smaller committees. I guess I don't know what the bylaws specifically are, but I mean, really, it comes back to it is $5 a month. So if somebody is willing to be on committees and commit their time, $5 seems like a small thing to do. So hope that answers your question. Anything else? All right, I am going to turn this back over to Chip.
A few years ago, we would have had to have a written ballot for all of our races. We fixed that. So if there is a motion to approve,
Secret ballot. Bylaws,
no, we fixed
secret ballot,
that. Maybe that's only for candidates.
says for executive.
Okay. Well,
And on, Chip, could I make that point of information? Please. Okay, so when we distribute the paper, if you see some of us kind of squinting with your badge, please be wearing your badge physically. And you'll notice that we have a group here, a mix of voting members and welcome guests who are non-voting. So when we distribute ballots, we only give ballots. So if we're looking at your badge.
Testing.
oh, yes, much better. Well, I was mistaken. I thought we fixed it, but maybe we only did that for candidates. That works. But, so now we're just pass out the ballots.
Bob, go ahead.
I'm just wondering, last year we didn't get the vote count.
Oh, yes. And maybe they can, as you announce it afterwards.
But it could also be displayed.
Oh, yeah, I think so. I think that's reasonable.
Okay.
Display, vote count on the screen afterwards. Thank you. Yeah, perfect.
votes. That's what we used last year.
Here, Anita, do you want to answer that too? Oh, did every voting member get a ballot?
Is it a battery issue? For them, probably, I just plugged my mic in, so. Okay. We're
I was
good
gonna
right
say a
now.
little better, thank you.
Thank you.
So I grabbed a battery if you need a second mic.
Cool. Get that all hooked up.
We will when it gets heated. That's amazing. There's a question. But there's some cases that are limited where it's bylaw considered as bylaw for the rule permit. But you can be suspended sometimes. I'm not sure if this.
I would say there's other people that.
Okay.
Because I've talked to Korean. That is the.
Yeah.
And I think you can. That we move it to.
When you guys contested elections, it's definitely would tedious.
Why do you have?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that. Next week. Anyway, it's fun. I sent the inquiry also to JJ prior to pay for.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think.
Figured it out. Yeah, time saving efforts usually in parliamentary matters.
By the way, for information, we use the same ballot form for all voting here. Whether we're electing someone for a position, chair, vice chair, secretary, et cetera, or we have platform bylaws proposals. And platform bylaws proposals are yes, no. So at the top of this, it says if it's a yes, no issue, you vote aye or nay or abstain. Okay, whereas for the offices, you write in the name or names. Some of the elections are you're picking one person, like for chair, you're picking one person. Some of the offices, like at large, for example, you can put in up to 6 names. At large, there are 6 representatives. And it mentions on here for the candidates, in addition to the physical people who are running for positions, NOTA, which means none of the above. NOTA is always one of your options also. So,
This is the Libertarian Party. We all know NOTA.
yeah, we use the same form because that way we print one form and we can use it for all of our ballots rather than having to print 16 different ballot forms. So.
Yeah. Here, people. All right. So have all the ballots been turned in? There's still any of it. All right. So while they're counting them, we are going to hear from the Minnesota Legislative Evaluation Assembly. So if you guys want a minute to speak. Sorry.
Says.
sorry, can you talk this from me for one moment? Yes. I have an updated credentials report. There are 31 voting members present. Okay, good morning, everyone. I want to thank Joey Kamaj and the rest of the LPMN leadership for inviting us here today. My name is John Augustine. I'm on the board of the Legislative Evaluation Assembly of Minnesota. It's a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization founded back in 1972 to inform citizens of about their state government and the performance of their legislature. And we do not get involved in campaigns. We do not endorse candidates. We do not give money to candidates. It's strictly educational. So I encourage, and Don Lee, who's seated over there next to the registration table, is our current chairman. And I encourage you to get more involved in our grassroots organization that exists to educate citizens and hold Minnesota legislators accountable. Supporting constitutionally limited government in Minnesota. We're best known for putting out an annual report on the legislature, which we have available over there. Copies of the 2024, 2023. Take what you wish. We value based on a credo that's listed right at the top of our report and the top of our website. And so even if you disagree with some of our conclusions, we don't just say yes or no. We'll tell you what a bill does, what the likely impact is, and why we favor or oppose it. So you'll learn something about the legislation. And we track all 201 legislators on their votes, on the same votes. So 4 votes. So today I'd like to talk about a couple of challenges. It's changes that we had passed into law that we outlined in the 2024 LEA report, as well as some legal and constitutional issues that have arisen in the wake of the November elections. Last year, there was a little less action as far as government than the blitzkrieg of legislation we experienced in 2023, though no less chaotic. At the end of session, with a 1,400-page grand theft omnibus bill rammed through by the majority right as time was expiring. That is being legally challenged by a couple different provisions. One by the Builders Association's challenging reclassification of employees, and the gun owners group is challenging binary triggers provision that was in this bill. And there's all kinds of other garbage that they just want to get over the finish line that unrelated. So it's violating a single subject rule, so it's being challenged. What will happen, because it's an court appointed by the governor, friendly to the governor, signed into law, it's hard to say. But anyway, it is being challenged. So there were 2 specific bills that I'd like to discuss that could have major repercussions going forward. There was an inaccurately described education supplemental budget bill. There was more money spent to support the supposed need to compensate teachers more to implement the READ Act, which is instead of just reallocating existing funds, since there was so much spending was increased so much in 2023. I think that much was certainly would have been the wiser decision. But the bigger objection we have is that the bill contained plenty of policy changes. Policy changes. It required all school-related employees to be paid fully on partial day closures, including for canceled before or after school programs. Maybe that's where some legislators got the idea to not get paid. I mean, to get paid for not showing up for work. But more ominously, it removed the conscientious objection exemption for the vaccination requirements when licensed child care centers requested it. So, and recently the social studies standard, graduation standard in this state was rewritten from a much more ideological group-oriented ethnic studies format. And also last year in this education supplemental bill, they inserted a new graduation standard. So along with social studies and math and so forth, we have the graduation standard of health. Okay, and that must be added to the content area. Content must include topics of mental health, substance use, sexually transmitted infection education, may include ideological, safe and supportive schools, anti-bullying education. Standards are to be adopted through the rulemaking process proposed by the dubious public health bureaucracy that gave us the insanity of the COVID emergency orders and gender affirming care. So we think that was very abusive of the process to throw that into a supplemental budget bill. And so people should be keeping an eye on that rulemaking process and looking ahead to see that their health standards is not really used as an ideological weapon. So now I'd like to talk a bit about the legal and constitutional issues that arose after the November elections, where the governor, as we heard, it's issued improper writs of special elections during Christmas vacation with improper filing periods, and where one party of the House did not even show up on the opening day of session to do sworn in to do work, all to minimize the amount of time the other party might have majority control of anything. Their position basically amounts to the voters voted for tied representation in November. So it would be unfair for that not to happen due to the technicality of one candidate not establishing residency to be eligible for office. Candidate actions or qualifications are irrelevant under this reasoning, as long as the election day results are reflected in proportional party representation. Well, that's how we got an American presidency on autopilot, where the office holder was really exhibiting dementia. So who the office holder is becomes irrelevant in this type of thinking. The opposition was to this is you have to follow the Constitution and statutes. Determine a quorum based on the number of qualified members and not call special elections with improper filing periods when there's no final determination of vacancy. So that was another issue. And they mentioned the filing period issue, but what also came up before the court, and I helped do some research on this, is that there was no vacancy at the time the writ was issued because the previous term had not ended, and the new officers couldn't be sworn in until the start of session, and they did not. So they did not follow that, and that. And the guy who got caught not resigning in the district said he resigned, but you can't resign from an office from which you've never been sworn in. And the Walls appointed court, believe it or not, actually recognized that in the statute that was on the books and overturned those writs to their credit. So anyway, they agreed with us on the special elections, but not on the quorum issue, despite precedents to the contrary. Where you just would have it based on qualified members rather than the total number of members seats there are. But so chaos resulted. The all did not take the oath of office on the first day of session in the manner prescribed by Minnesota Statute 3.05. Did not show up for the first 3 weeks of session. Still got paid. Meanwhile, the House was not able to compel the attendance of absent members to achieve a quorum, as is prohibited in Article 4, Section 13 of the Minnesota Constitution, and was adjourned for more than 3 days during session without the consent of the other body, which is prohibited by Article 4, Section 12. The irony of the special election vacancy disputed in the House is that if the governor and DFL House members had recognized the actions of the Republicans on the first day of session as legitimate, the vacancy could have been filled sooner than it will be, because the first action the House attempted was to pass a resolution affirming the judge's finding on the eligibility of Curtis Johnson, thereby creating the official vacancy. So the governor then has 5 days
to issue a writ of special election. Because they didn't accept that action or any of the actions on the first day of legitimate. Then by statute, you had to wait 22 days after the start of session. It was all because they wanted to minimize the amount of time the other side had any control. So, the roots of the chaos even precede the current election cycle. So legislators who wanted to avoid the inconvenience of moving during the holidays inserted a provision into the 2023 omnibus state government bill, which changed the start of sessions in odd years to the first Tuesday after the second Monday in January. This directly contradicts Article 7, Section 7 of the Minnesota Constitution, which states that the official year begins on the first Monday in January in each year, and that all terms of office terminate at that time. So because an elected official term cannot begin until they're sworn into office on the first day of session, it creates a 1 week gap now. Every 2 years in one body and every 4 years for the entire legislature, in which there's legally no legislature at all following Senate elections. So the governor and allies tried to exploit this gap by declaring an imminent vacancy once the old term legally ended before the new session started. That really upsets the balance of power. I mean, if there's a governor and there's a judiciary, but there's no legislature, and that upsets the balance of power and invites mischief that can undermine the current legislative process. So we should get a constitutional amendment. I mean, it's not something that everybody is going to be really excited about, but it's something that's pretty hard to argue against. To realign the start of the legislative term with the start of the official year again. There's no honest way to argue against doing so. So, then I want to just talk a little bit. I don't need to talk too much about the scorecard. I can take questions about the scorecard. But you will notice if you pick up a copy of it, which I encourage you to do, that I mean, people can pass on if they want. That's fine. All of our honorees are from the Senate this past year, and it's all grassroots. We've got people that have served in the legislature, people that are business backgrounds, academic backgrounds. I've had some background in business and journalism, theological background, science backgrounds, all kinds of us. But we certainly could use more that meet to evaluate legislation and put together the report. But it's all grassroots driven in that we have an annual members meeting at our annual banquet where we elect board of directors, Don and myself and the other directors that are tasked with overseeing the production of the next year's report. So that is how it works. I encourage people to get involved. But the reason why was there all Senate and no House? But we scored all the legislators on the same vote. Well, some of the people that are in the Senate now that have been scoring pretty well on constitutional liberty issues for a long time used to be in the House, but then when redistricting came, they moved to the Senate, and we think that emboldened a few more senators. You'll hear from Representative Brody earlier. He's not on there because he just joined the legislature, so he wasn't in the legislature in 2024, but hopefully he can be coming up. My district this past year, we had somebody who, and we saw this in a lot of the campaigns, they wanted to bring balance. He campaigned on bringing balance to the legislature, whatever that means. So we got a mandate for balance. So I really hope that they push back on some of the ridiculous stuff that was pushed through recently, because leftists will fight to preserve every bit of power and influence they gain. Just a little bit about some of the issues that are coming up or are on the horizon. And Rebecca talked about some of these. We got there was. I'll let somebody else talk. Mr. Roach talk about defend of the guard or never. You should ask about the never again bill to prevent the 15-month type of emergency power unchecked like we had during COVID. There's a couple of different versions of that. So when he gets here, you can ask him about that. Bill to repeal the bias incident database that was inserted into the omnibus judiciary bill in 2023. There's a cottage foods freedom bill. There's, and on the other side, there's a bill to expand the delivery fees. Right now, it kicks in up after $100. They want to just make everything, you have to pay the delivery fee. Want to tweak the sales tax where there's a minuscule reduction in the rate in exchange for broadening the scope of what is taxed. I don't think that's a very good trade-off. When it comes to election law, we don't have very secure elections or very good election integrity in this state. And when one party gets a lot of control, they try to just use it to build their advantage, which we see. But a lot of more stuff they've passed in the recent years. They passed something in 2024. I'll be brief about this. Like it's on the horizon. You guys should be aware of it because it's not. I haven't seen it. I've talked to other people. I haven't seen it anywhere else in the country. The Minnesota Voting Rights Act. So this is revolutionary stuff where they let's see if I can find it here. Maybe put it in here. Oh, here we go. Yeah, sorry. The Attorney General, county attorneys, groups, or individual members of recognized protected classes are given opportunities to challenge elections after the fact, not available to other Minnesotans. Courts are ordered to act in an expedited manner to address the challenges, concerns of vote suppression and vote dilution. Factors can be used. Evidence of suppression include overt or subtle racial appeals or lack of responsiveness to particular needs, polarized voting, classes deviate from electoral choice and voting in general. Select executive remedies for the court include alternative polling places, proportional or cumulative ranked choice voting, or overturning redistricting. So they didn't use it last time, but this is a tool they now have in their toolbox. Groups do to try to overturn election results. And I have other elections related issues that I am following that you can ask me about too if you wish. Thank you so much for your time. I encourage you to become a grassroots member of our educational organization. Talk to Don and I about how to get more involved, and I can stand for questions if you wish. Thanks. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so first, after the vice chair election is next, but after that, we do have a little bit of time for an additional speaker today. And so looking for about 10 minutes. Sorry, I can't ever remember. The wrongfully incarcerated and oversentenced family council and one of their members to come and speak on some of the things that they're tracking. So I need an amendment from the floor after the vice chair election to be able to hear them as a speaker. If somebody wants to make that.
I make such a motion.
All right, we have a motion by Joey and Toby seconded it, or y'all can fight that out. It would take a little bit of time out of platform and bylaws, but really I'm anticipating the vice chair elections to not take the full amount of time. Okay, so any other questions about that amendment to the agenda? Yeah, about 10 minutes. All right, not seeing any, so all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion carries. Okay, so. Chip has an announcement. Oh, yeah, you have an announcement.
So, first, I do want to clarify one thing about our rules. We can, we just read from bylaw 5.1. Acclamation. If there are the same number or fewer candidates in an election, then there are open positions. The body may choose to dispense with the prescribed balloting process and elect candidates by acclamation. So this was something we had instituted a number of years ago to make our convention run more efficiently. I've spoken
Sorry about that. That was my error.
Yeah, I spoke there.
My error, sorry.
Enjoy about it. And thank you, Kurt. So just, I didn't want to set bad precedent. So this is what we can do things. But that said, I do have the results of this, unneeded.
Let it win.
There were, one thing to clarify, earlier Joey said there were 30 credentialed delegates. There are 31 because Tony Morimoto stopped in. And we have 31 ballots. There were 2 votes for somebody named I. So we're considering those invalid, at least that's what the tellers decided. And there were 29 votes for Rebecca Whiting. So Rebecca, your chair for committee.
Thank you very much. All right, so now we'll move on to the vice chair race. And I am opening the floor for nominations for the vice chair. Jason.
I nominate Nick Duggar.
All right, nomination for Nick Duggar from the floor. Do you accept? All right, do I have a second? Okay, y'all can still fight that up. Jake and. Oh. Sorry. Okay, sorry. I just had a brain fart. I know your name. Anybody else?
I nominate Chip Tannen.
All right, Joey nominates Chip Tannen. Chip, do you accept? Okay, Chip has declined the nomination. Anybody else?
I'll nominate Ahmed.
Ross nominates Ahmed for vice chair. Ahmed, do you accept? Good try though. All right, anybody else? All right, I am not seeing any other hands, so we are going to close the floor for nomination. Nick, you want to come up and say your thing?
Well, I had a speech plan, but that's not actually on the agenda, so I think we're going right into questions and answers. Well, I can make it short. It's like half.
My first question, what was the speech?
Thank you, Tony. Thank you. So, hello, everyone. My name is Nick Duggar. I'm a Catholic, a Libertarian, and a principal software engineer by trade. Many of you know me, and you know my work ethic. Even though I'm not the most tenured member of the party, I have spent countless hours devoted to the party in the pursuit of furthering liberty. I have petitioned, attended rallies, called representatives and senators, volunteered in IT, comms, organizing, served as the party secretary between 2023 and 2024, and I'm currently serving as the communications director. Some of you may know that I did briefly exit the party over strategy disagreements last year. However, even while I was taking a break, I was still volunteering countless hours to the party. I worked closely with Joey and Bill on our new website and new line of merchandise.
Great.
Please buy the merchandise. Oh gosh, where was I?
Where?
On lpmn.org/shop. Thank you. No, we don't have any printed out today. Buy it online. Even though I temporarily decided to stop giving money to the party during this break, I was still dedicated to its cause. Now, as I look forward to what we can all accomplish together, I think about my vision for the party. It includes stronger messaging with a focus on education, outreach, and marketing, prioritizing local races in pursuit of Project Decentralized Revolution, and coalitioning with our opposition towards incremental change. We need to be open to leveraging our position as the third largest party to aggressively call out bad actors in the legislature, make deals when appropriate, and riding cultural waves when they align with our principles. Trying to play politics like an all or nothing black and white purity test will result in us having nothing, and I know none of us want that. I believe we have the capacity to create some very real waves over the next 2 years together, from the defend the guard legislation to voter outreach. Let's take on the state together and advance liberty in Minnesota like never before. I ask for your vote if you think I can help lead us forward in this regard. Thank you. Thank you. Questions?
Yes.
Yes, Jason.
What do you find to be the greatest challenge for the party currently?
I kind of want to echo what Rebecca said. There's a core group of people doing most of the work. I know everyone has, their own lives to attend to and things going on. But Rebecca, remind everyone, how many children do you have? 12 children, she thinks. And even while she has 12 children, she still chairs the party, goes to rallies, does petitioning, runs for races. Everyone's got their own things going on, and I certainly can't stand here and judge anyone for the decisions that they make and how much effort that they put in. But I just plead with everybody that if you are able, maybe instead of watching an hour of Netflix tonight, maybe you find a way to contribute to the party. That would just be greatly appreciated. And so that's a very long answer to your question, Jason.
That's the perfect answer.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Yeah, 2 years.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, 26. In order to get our ballot, take my office before state or state senate. Making a petition. Will you support it, urging public party members to solicit signatures for all those races?
I can't commit to all those races because I don't know exactly what all the races that we're going to have candidates in.
Will you nominate where the Libertarian Party is endorsing and need signatures to get that? Will you commit to collect yourself and urging fellow party members to collect signatures?
I will commit myself to gathering as many signatures for all of those positions that we have, that the party has nominated. And as communications director, I will also direct members to also contribute signatures to each of those races as well. Any other questions?
I'll ask it.
Go, Joey.
Nick, there was a gap in you being in the party for a little bit. Can you explain to us why you left, why you came back?
So it was mostly about strategy disagreements, particularly around, and it actually speaks to Jason's first question around, what is my biggest frustration with the party? We have limited resources in terms of, people willing to contribute their time and their effort to the party. And so it just, to me, came down to like a cost benefit analysis of how we use those resources. And so it was, a disagreement that resulted in me taking a break from the party. I came back because I look around at the two major parties in the state, both the DFL and the GOP, and they are very fractured. Like they are arguing very publicly amongst each other. And I feel like, now is the perfect time to kind of really ramp up our approach in the state. Yes.
You'd be able to try to back some.
Well, I mean, that's a tough question because different people left for different reasons, but I do think that we can attract some of those people back. Yes.
How much does it cost? 8%.
Sorry?
How much do the other parties pay per signature?
Well, the major parties don't have to gather signatures at all.
Right.
The other minor parties, I don't know how much they pay. $5 per signature. Okay, there's your answer.
I've been doing it for free.
I know, right? Any other questions? I don't see it. Bill, you got nothing for me? No?
Okay. All right. Thank you. I am not that cool. Okay, so remind me what the proper procedure is. Well, are we doing a motion by acclamation since there is nobody else, or how are we doing?
We need a motion.
Okay, so I'm entertaining a motion by acclamation.
20 people.
One at a time. Do we need to suspend the rules? No. Oh, no, we don't need to suspend the rules. It's just vote by acclamation. All right, so Carrie made a motion to vote by acclamation. Do I have a second? Sean Sullivan seconds. Okay, and then do we just vote, or do we need to pass this first? Do we need to pass this?
We need to pass.
Okay, so any questions about what's happening? So we're making a motion by acclamation. We're going to pass this and we'll make the. No questions? All right, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. All right, motion carries. All right, so now what's the right word? Maybe Chip, you want to make the motion? Okay. Okay, Chip makes the motion to elect Nick Duggar by acclamation.
Second.
My goodness. Sean Sullivan, second. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, man.
All right, so we have a motion by acclamation in a second. Any questions? All right, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? I thought I was doing that right.
No, you don't do that.
Okay, never mind. I will stop. I think that passed, so motion carries. So now we have the wrongfully incarcerated and over sentenced family council nonprofits, and Alyssa, right? What's your last name? Washington. Washington. I should have asked that. Yeah, sorry. So Alyssa Washington. Please ask the long question.
Thank you for having me today. It's an honor to speak here and share the mission of my nonprofit. The Wrongfully Incarcerated and Over Sentenced Families Council, Minnesota. Our organization and the Libertarian Party share a common belief in the importance of individual freedoms, justice, and reducing government overreach. Like you, we advocate for the fair treatment of individuals and stand against injustices within the system. Our mission is to bring about systematic change, ensuring that everyone receives the justice they deserve. Today, I also want to highlight the cases of Cornelius Jackson and Nico Redding. Cornelius Jackson was a teenager at the time the crime he was convicted of and has always maintained his innocence. He has been wrongfully incarcerated for over 18 years. In 2006, his case was prosecuted by Mike Fernstall, whose predecessors were Amy Klobuchar and Mike Freeman. And we all know of their corrupt ways in 2006. Nico Redding was supposed to be released in 2001 based on the laws in place at the time of his conviction. But due to changes in the law, his release was denied. Nico is now 72 years old and is a paraplegic. And they act like he's a threat to society. He can't even move barely. And also, Nico, who is a paraplegic and not a threat to society, has been held captive 23 years past his original release date. Both Cornelius and Nico have always maintained their innocence. These cases exemplify why our fight for justice is so crucial. We invite you to reach out to us and join in our mission. Together, we can organize, collaborate, and make a real difference. If you have any questions or would like to connect, please let us know. We encourage everyone to learn more about these critical issues and stand with us in solidarity. And we can open the floor for any questions. And I'm open to any questions. Everything is public information. Everyone can look these things up as well. Yes, we do. We're currently, working on getting it up and running, but we are on all social medias. Our information is over here on these pamphlets. We have Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, everything. We are a new grassroots organization, so we don't have funding, and I don't really know how to work the internet to make a website. So we're working with what we got. Any other questions? Yes, Megan?
I'm just curious, try to mainly highlight specific cases of injustice, or is it a general belief that we're incarcerating people that terms of, so you hear about the revolving door, somebody gets fired and kicked out, they're trying to spread up. Yeah. So I'm just curious what the distinction is on that.
I understand. So to answer your question, hopefully I answered correctly. Our organization, we advocate for all those who are wrongfully incarcerated and over sentenced. My fiance is Cornelius Jackson. That's how I started in on this fight and really opened my eyes to the injustices here in Minnesota, especially against Black, brown, and minorities, indigenous people here in Minnesota. It's overlooked, I believe. And there is a huge issue in Hennepin County, and I believe everywhere, where the prosecutors are allowing criminal reliable informants to testify falsely against other people because they have all the incentive of the world in the world to test and falsely testify. In Cornelius's case, 3 of the witnesses, they were all looking at hard time, like life sentences in federal prison. They had all the incentive to lie on the stand against Cornelius. Cornelius had never been in trouble before, ever. He had a parking ticket, just graduated high school. He just got out of high school. He has a 19-year-old son he's never touched outside of prison walls, and it's been affecting us for many years, but it's getting harder because he's getting older and he doesn't want to die in there, Just imagine being innocent in prison for the rest of your life. Never been in trouble before, ever. The first time you get into any kind of trouble, they lock you up for the rest of your life. Mind you, he's never had any priors before. We're Black, we're from North Minneapolis, like, I'm working, that's what they got against us. So that's what we're out here fighting for. And I really implore you guys all to, I'm trying not to cry, but, it's there for me, but we really are looking for people to stand with us, and it is overlooked. We do need help. So, any other questions? Well, thank you all.
Thank you. Noon.
Okay, so, thank you, Alyssa, for coming. So I actually met them at a, in Rush City, prison where somebody else is there and we're doing like a thing. Just trying, I'm kind of coming up short with words right now. Yeah, I'm sorry. What? Yes, press conference. Thank you. We were there to meet for a press conference, and that's how I met her, for somebody else that was in the prison for the same reasons. Just they're not supposed to be there. How do we get them out? Okay, so the time is noon, and now we are on to everybody's absolute favorite time of the convention: platform of violence.
Yes.
Oh, boy.
One thing.
Yes.
Can you say these magic words? If you want shirts, they're $5 a piece at the, registration table.
If that's magic, does that mean that's a discount? Is there a discount? Is that like a coupon?
I'll explain how to get that price over here.
Okay. $5 t-shirts at that table over there. Just follow the only guy in the room with the purple shirts. And I lost my copy of Hot for Violence. Hold on.
Oh my God.
All right, so if everybody has their packet out, we have the first proposal, amends the LPMN bylaws 6.10.2, notice period required for executive committee special meetings. So a little bit of background. We had a situation right after Christmas this year where we had an opportunity to pursue a lawsuit, and there was a special election, the writ of the special election. The window that they gave us was very, very short. The way that our current bylaws are written is that we have to have a minimum of 4 days to get the executive committee together to call a special meeting. And it just wasn't enough time to be able to do that notice for executive committee and make a decision. And then it was, anyways, it had to happen faster. So that's a little bit of the background. This would improve our ability to respond to urgent matters, special elections, while preserving the assurance that all executive committee members receive notice for the special meeting. So you guys can see the current wording up there. Special meetings may be needed from time to time to handle urgent matters. Special meetings may be called by the chair or vice chair and shall be announced, and matters acted upon shall be limited to those announced at least 4 days in advance of the meeting. If 2 or more executives object to the holding of a special meeting, the meeting shall not be held and matters shall be deferred to the next regular meeting. So this takes out, you'll see under the markup copy of proposal 1, takes out the 4 days notice to 24 hours, which would give us the ability to, especially in, like I said already, urgent matters, be able to do things at a much faster pace. And that is the only change in this proposal. Is there any questions? Bob?
Well, the last time I read the Robert's Rules of Order, I don't believe this is compliant with that, as what they suggest, because it's easy to take over an organization if you can schedule meetings whenever you want to make sure that the opposition isn't available. So this has consequences for any organization that adopts it. I would say maybe instead of saying at least 24 hours in advance, up to, well, whatever. I mean, 24 hours should be the absolute maximum. I mean, the minimum requirement. To maybe 4 days, something like that. And in addition, make it specific. I mean, we have no control over what the government does when he issues these writs. So how to put it, make it specific to the 24 hours to make to politics. I mean, where we have to act fast, and not to anything else.
Right.
And then the 4 days for everything else.
Okay. Charlie?
Yeah, I will say, as this is written, this does just set the floor for the 24 hours. It doesn't necessarily
say that the meeting has to happen in the next 24 hours. So this just sets the floor to your argument. We don't need to specify any longer distance. This just says the least minimum notification is 24 hours.
Well, yeah, I can see that.
So we don't have to specify any maximum. We can say, okay, it's gonna happen in 4 days, but you have a 24-hour notice. So it's just setting the floor for the notice.
Oh, okay.
Any other questions? Eric?
Point of information, the proposal as written is compliant with Roberts. It's 9.13 in Roberts, Roner.
Okay.
And it just, Roberts only specifies as a reasonable number of things. So this proposal is compliant with that. Whether the body wishes to modify the proposal is a different matter, but it is compliant.
You get your steps in today.
So I want to say that I do support this proposal, but I also want to suggest to all of the affiliate chairs and members of local affiliates, look at your own bylaws. CD2's bylaws had no minimum notice requirement for special meetings, Bob.
I didn't hear you.
Yeah, our CD2 bylaws provided no notice requirement for special meetings. I found that uncomfortable. And so I believe we amended our bylaws at our annual convention this year to adopt a 24-hour notice requirement. So I just encourage all the affiliates to look at your own bylaws, because Bob raises a good point. We should provide notice if actions are going to be taken. And 24 hours is sufficient in my mind. And remember, the chair and vice chair can object. So there's that mentality too.
But you know, the 24 hours requires people to be very vigilant as to how you're notified. I mean, if it's email, they have to watch their email constantly. If it's text or whatever. I mean, that's quite the requirement.
So Bob, I know at the end of your original talk was mentioned about limiting the scope. But you were talking about limiting the scope of the special meeting, as in like the purpose of the meeting, correct? Like, because you mentioned something about like a takeover. You mentioned that in your first, when you spoke on this right away. Would it be I had it worded in my mind correctly and now it just kind of left. So to limit the scope of these special meetings to like rapidly evolving political events, or let's say, you know, in addition to that, you know, I just went through open meeting laws for my city council stuff. There might be emergencies that you have to act right away. Would that be an amendment like rapidly evolving political events or emergencies that need immediate action? That does not include changing over like the major seats or like changing the structure of the party. Is that limit the concern?
Well, I'm gonna politics is definitely very rapid.
Yeah.
I really think it should be confined to that.
So my point is that if you are on the board of the party, that you need to be vigilant and you need to be watching your tweet. I don't know why that's doing that. Check out from the CIA. So I don't think that that's a bad thing to require people on the board to be vigilant. In fact, I think that's a good thing. And then to Jake's point, it could be a good bit of effort for us to perfectly word what constitutes an urgent matter, but the wording does still specify urgent matters. I guess that's subjective, but trying to get that language perfect where we don't leave out certain urgent matters trying to specify what exactly constitutes an urgent matter, that sounds like a lot of work. So that's it.
I just wanted to point out that the already existing language that's not being modified does already have the limitation. So in providing the notice, it needs to identify the matters that are going to be addressed at the special meeting and only those matters can be addressed. So it can't be something outside or a big takeover. It needs to be specifically identified. And also, again, if two or more executives object to the meeting, then it can't happen. So there already are built-in checks. It's simply reducing that notice threshold so that if there is something that comes up that is very urgent, that is very narrow, notice can be provided. People go, yeah, we need to address that one issue really quickly.
Okay, so I would just say that in the past, when it's been sort of difficult to call a special meeting or it takes a while, I think it's created a tendency, and I can think of specific examples where the chair or some smaller group of people starts the decision-making process before there even is a meeting. And if we are able to have these meetings quicker and easier, I think it would actually give the board, the entire board, sort of more say and give them more rights in terms of having decision-making ability.
Madam Chair, I call for vote.
Okay. I don't have my parliamentarian here.
That's calling a question.
Okay, calling question. So we go to a vote now.
You have to pass the call the question.
Okay, so we have a call question to go to the vote on the floor. You need, okay. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? All right, so that carries. And I did not offer abstentions, Joey, if you were paying attention.
Thank you.
So then now we have the motion on the floor to amend the bylaws as written, 4 days to 24 hours. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, so Bill, you are up to do the next one.
Okay, so this proposal is to basically adopt the national party's current statement of principles as our statement of principles for platform number 1 and bylaw number 2. And the rationale, so what brought this about was we noticed, looking at the current statement of principles for our party, that it doesn't really respect the Dallas Accord. And so the story there was in 1972, the National Party was got its original statement of principles, and it included verbiage like, the government has, where is it? Government should exist to do X, Y, Z, or governments have one legitimate function. And then, starting in 1972, this big war started between the big government minarchists and the philosophically pure anarchists. And then it was a pitched battle. And in 1974, a truce was called, and they adopted the Dallas Accord, which was a change to this statement of principles at the time that would remove this language. And the state party never got the memo. So we still have that language in our bylaws, 40, 50 years later. And, looking at it, we decided it would be clean and appropriate to just adopt the current national statement of principles. And so that's what this is. Thank you. Good questions for you. Okay. Comments and questions. Is this language? So this is directly from the national. The language that's proposed is directly from the national bylaws. Yes, that's correct. The third wording, if proposal 2 is adopted, yeah, that's straight from the national parties. Have we amended anything individually as the state party versus the national language? So the only change here is instead of we, the members of the Libertarian Party National, it says the Libertarian Party of Minnesota. That's literally the only change from the national currently. Any other questions? Yes.
So this is a stupid question. So this current wording, is this go back that long ago to 1974 or is it how old that wording is?
So the current wording, I mean, it's amended at the national convention, generally speaking, a little bit every convention. So the basic form of it was adopted in 1974, and then it's been tweaked here and there consistently ever since. And so this is the current version as of the last national convention. Yes, Eric?
And just a point of information, the statement of principles is not, I agree with this proposal completely. But just for information for others, the statement of principles is not often amended because it's a very high threshold to do that. It's in our bylaws. It's in 7 It's 80% national, 80%.
Any other questions and comments on this? I'm not seeing any. Okay. Oh. Okay. So I have no idea how this, I've never done this before. So Chip, what's the threshold?
It's oh no, this one.
It's 80%. Okay. So how do I tell if it reached 80%? I get, okay, this will be easy. Okay. Eric?
You could do votes by acclamation.
Okay.
It'll be apparent. Is there a large number of discerning people or not? If you can't tell that it's 80, then we would do raise hand.
Okay. So do we have a motion?
Motion to approve proposal 2 to amend the statement of principles and the bylaws.
By voice vote.
By voice vote.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor of adopting this proposal, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, it's adopted.
Are we doing number 3 now? Yeah. Like we had time to do number 3. Celebrate.
We did 25 minutes.
All right. All right, I'll be presenting proposal 3, amend bylaws 6.4 and 6.5 to change the treasurer and secretary to 2-year terms. Unlike the chair and vice chair, which are already 2-year terms, the treasurer and secretary are still 1 year. And in the committee, we decided that we believe that was some sort of that was a sort of an imbalance. And I'm presenting this not just because I have an interest as a treasurer in wanting my elections to be less frequent. I also think that it makes sense for the party to have more structure and consistency in all of its officer positions, not just chair and vice chair. I'm sorry, I was dealing with transactions, I wasn't paying a great deal of attention to what do people have questions? Let's start there. Nick.
Why are you hungry for power?
Because I don't know if anyone else can do the job better than me. Charlie.
All right, so, as I read this, so 4 officers, the chair, vice chair, treasurer, and secretary, will all be elected in odd years
Yes,
moving forward.
yes.
Starting in.
Yeah, we have a sunrise clause in there.
Yeah, starting
to cover-
2027.
Yes, starting in 2027. So this cycle will not be affected.
Right.
And it doesn't start, the next cycle is at the even year, so it starts after that.
Correct.
Okay. Additional questions?
I move to adopt proposal 3.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. I guess I'm technically chairing the meeting right now. Whoops. Do you want to?
You can finish it.
All right, okay. Well, the motion has been made and seconded. Mitch made the motion. And I did. Keith Haskell made the second. All right, so all those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. I have the next one. Eric, you have the next one.
I kept you under 25 minutes, but
Thank you. Okay, so proposal 4 in our platform bylaws package is amending bylaws 6.5 and 6.11. The seasoning requirement for officers on the executive committee. It's 2 sections, 6.5 and 6.11. It's the same issue, it's just related. It's just making sure that the sections are consistent. So right now, it's a 45-day seasoning requirement for someone to be eligible to be elected to the executive committee. And the concern is that 45 days, if someone hasn't been a member and then they join the party, and so like, I appreciate it if they're eager and like just wanting to like really get involved and contribute. But 45 days really isn't enough time to get fully up to speed with the executive committee functions and all of the party history and principles and the platform and bylaws. Because if you're going to be a member of the executive committee, you should be familiar with our platform and bylaws. So what this would do, and again, this is a very surgical proposal. So if you look at the markup, it's really clearest. You want to scroll down to the markup. The markup, and again, it's 2 sections below. So we're changing, the proposal would change the seasoning requirement from 45 days to 6 months. And then that's for people being elected here at convention. And then if you can scroll down to 6.11, please, it's on the next page. So 6.11 is, we fill offices on the executive committee during convention, but of course, there might be a vacancy occur. Someone has to leave their office for whatever reason. And so sometimes we fill offices in between conventions. There's a procedure for doing that. What this is doing is it's amending 6.11, saying the same seasoning applies, whether you're elected during convention or whether you're appointed in between conventions. It would be 6 months. Any questions on that?
Quite a bit, Cory. Does this require continuous membership? So for example, if there's somebody who's involved in the party, the membership lapsed a month before convention, they rejoined, would they then be barred because they have not had a continuous membership. They're not proven.
I can speak to that. No, it would not prevent that person, specifically because those who are lapsed for less than 3 months are considered active members for the purpose of voting and membership.
So 6 months total could be, a bit of a lapse. So just to clarify, like 6 months total, there could be a lapse in there.
Well, to make that more clear, if somebody signs up for a membership and then stops paying their dues for a month or two for whatever reason, and then re-ups their dues, I do not consider that to be a joining of the party. I consider that to be re-upping their dues for their existing members.
Seems good.
Request for information.
So the wording and proposal for is adopted in the first sentence. Why does it end in 2 periods?
That's probably, because that's a legacy error and,
I believe that particular one is.
Current wording as well.
It's
in the current wording, so for clarity of the change that we're making, we're only changing the 45 days to 6 months. This is not a global, retroactive, comprehensive correction of all punctuation.
Okay. Would you accept a
It's changed in a different proposal, Charlie. This is
All right.
the only proposal that's.
Fine. Sounds good. If it's handled later, then, all right, fine, I appreciate that. I will say, just to add into it, I do think 6 months of membership continuous, would be a good thing for executive committee membership participation. Not the lapse. I understand the lapse. But I do think 6 months of continuous membership in the party as a member, is a good thing to kind of qualify to be elected to the executive committee.
Charlie, are you proposing that we add the word continuous after the words 6 months?
Would you accept such a proposal? I would like to.
That's to the body.
Would you?
A motion for amendment to the proposal?
I would like to, I make a motion to amend the proposal to include continuous membership for at least 6 months prior to election to the executive committee.
Could we just insert the word continuous so that it would read at least 6 months continuous prior to the convention?
I would, absolutely.
Just in terms of.
Second that motion.
I believe that by putting that in, that would override what Joey is currently doing.
Yes.
So if somebody were actively involved and some form that didn't go through, they couldn't say, oh, it's late and get caught up. They would be not.
So. All right. So I think that there is a grace period that Joey is talking about.
Yeah, but that grace period is unofficial. It is not written in the bylaws anyway.
Okay. So if we're saying that your membership lapses due to a missed payment period, is that the correct way to do it?
How long is a missed payment period?
Well, that's what is being asked right now,
Yeah, okay.
right? So does membership lapse?
According to the bylaws, you're either a member or you aren't.
Interesting. I'd still say continuous.
All right. That is inviting a need to add something to the bylaws. Otherwise.
So
Not necessarily.
this grace period has been heavily debated by like the last two executive committees. It's not in the bylaws. I actually don't even remember whether or not it's in the standard operating procedures. It's not even in the standard operating procedures. Because we did have an issue, 2 years ago, 1 year ago, where we did have a member on the executive committee who, like, I think their membership was lapsed for 2 months, 60 days, maybe more. And so we were debating like whether or not action could be taken, should be taken. But then we decided, well, there's a historical precedent of a 90-day grace period. We probably should fill that in at least somewhere, whether it's in the standard operating procedures or in the bylaws. But I do think that it is playing with fire to add the word continuous here, because you could automatically lose executive committee members accidentally. I don't know, something to think about.
Does this address the 6-month qualification for new affiliates?
Yeah.
I didn't hear the question.
Does this affect new affiliates that maybe aren't in the party 6 months prior, but there's no, that's the situation I'm in, and I don't know if I've actually been here 6 months. So it's a real question.
Individuals. So, but what he said.
Right.
is, the chair or representative from affiliate has to speak on. But is that still true? No, again, it's an individual. So I think that means that they're not. Sponsored. Yes, even if they are titled one.
That's my question. Is it creates a conflict if you're told as an affiliate chair, for example, that you have a position on the executive committee, my understanding that their language. But if you haven't been a member for 6 months, then you're not, if I'm understanding the wording, then I would not be, I'll just take me as an example, I would not be qualified to be on the executive committee, even though I'm affiliate.
Right. Well, he, yeah, so he's using himself as a say he.
Point of information.
I guess we should. Well, go ahead.
We have a point of information over here.
Section 4.2 of the current bylaw states, a member holding leadership position whose membership has expired shall automatically lapse from those positions, provided that reasonable notice is given, and whereupon after prompt renewal, their position shall be retained as if no lapse had occurred. I think that does. What's that?
We don't have a definition of prompt. That's the issue. We don't have a definition of prompt. Because we don't have a definition.
And I agree that it's been debated.
I don't know.
So, and this is my position, is like, I just think continuous membership, even under clause 4.2, should be required for executive committee participation.
Hold on, Charlie, what were you just referring to?
4.2?
In the bylaws?
Yeah.
Okay, can you read it again?
Sure. A member holding leadership positions whose membership has expired shall automatically lapse from, am I saying this right? Shall automatically lapse from those positions, provided that reasonable notice is given, and whereupon, after prompt renewal, their positions shall be retained as if no lapse had occurred.
Okay.
But this proposal is for elections. These are candidates for election. This doesn't change anything for current executive committee members.
Okay, so hold on. We have your amendment to the bylaws changes on the floor.
Okay.
And you made the motion, who made the second?
My second.
And Toby seconded it. Okay, so the way we're gonna do this is everybody gets a chance to speak once. And then we're going to go to a vote. So if you have had already an opportunity to say something, then let's give the people who have not opportunity right now to be able to voice their opinion on the matter. And then it'll go to vote. So we're just adding in. Okay. Does anybody else have an opinion that would like to voice that right now?
Yes, I would.
Who? Oh, Toby.
Okay, so this says that they have to be a member for at least 6 months. It does not say that they have to, that membership has to occur when they're appointed, but it does say that it can't lapse once they accept that. There's nothing that says when they're appointed, they have to be a current member, but once they take the position, they have to have, their membership can't lapse. Ready to Chuck's reading.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Okay, so we are going to take this motion, I'm sorry, the amendments to the bylaws. And we're going to vote on it right now. So is everybody paying attention? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Nay? Okay, I think the ayes have it, so amendment carries. Motion for the amendment carries. All right. Yeah, so now we are working on a proposal, which will be on the screen in a minute. Motion, yep. Are you making the motion? Oh. Oh, next. Nick makes the motion and Bob seconds it. Any more need for discussion? Joey?
I'd like to.
I think it'd be a good idea for us to table this until after we get to, proposal 8, because proposal 8, has language in it that implies the existence of the now, open question of, last, yes.
Okay, hold on, let me find that.
Yeah, so move to table.
I second the motion. Somebody you said it. Okay.
It was Nick and Bob. Made the motion.
Joey, this is a question for that proposal number 8.
Yes.
That proposal does not mention the 6-month window for membership, but then the language added says within the window for renewal, and that's specifically referencing, is it the 45-day or the 18-month?
It's gotta be the 45 days.
And so that would not then apply to the 6-month
Oh,
window?
no, I'm sorry. That is a correct thing to point out, that the window for renewal that is in the 9.2 proposal 8 is referencing the 18 months that is currently in 9.
And so that would then not apply.
It would not apply, so
Do you withdraw your motion?
it's too late, it's been seconded, I can't withdraw it.
Right, well, but we already had a motion on the floor, so we had to address that first. So yours was technically irrelevant.
Perfect.
Okay, so we have, the motion is to approve the proposal as written, as amended. It'll be up there. Anybody else? Going once, twice, 3 times. All right. All in, you have the proposal up. Thank you. All right. I forgot where I was. All right, so all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. I think the ayes still have it, so motion still carries. All right.
question.
Okay, so I have a motion on the floor to suspend. It was the motion first.
Would be complaints and, on my odds for the next slotted time. And move on for next.
Okay, so our motion on the floor to suspend bylaws and move on to the next speaker. Do I have a second? Bob seconds.
Oh, there's no next. Oh, there is. Oh, yeah. It's like 15:20. Adjourn from this. Yeah.
Okay. All right, everybody in favor say aye. All opposed? Nay? Okay. All right, motion carries. So, yep, Minnesota Justice Coalition. They are here and they have a table over there with a whole bunch of stuff too. So during our breaks and things, please go and, check everything out from everybody.
Billy?
Harrison, they should have emailed you a presentation.
Okay. This one? Wait, that's not. Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Jonathan McClellan. I'm president of the Minnesota Justice Coalition. We are part of a collective of organizations that work with families and community to draft and advance legislative initiatives at the Capitol here in St. Paul and Washington, D.C. I want to thank the Libertarian Party for inviting us to speak before you and share some of the projects that we're working on. I am going to pass it off to Sheldon, one of my colleagues, to go over some of the legislation that we're currently working on. And I'll let you guys know what we're doing. So thank you.
So we have various legislative priorities that we're focusing on. This here is just an overview of all the initiatives that we are trying to have passed at the legislature. Slide, please. Wait. Oh. So one of the initiatives we're trying to do is a revocation of police pensions following felony convictions. So if a police officer is convicted of a felony that is involved in the, their employment, this would remove the ability to them to receive a pension because of this action. Instead, this money would go to officers who are lawfully doing their job, and us as taxpayers aren't having our money go to officers who have committed a felony while they were doing their job or trying to do their job.
I'll also say on that particular proposal that we drafted, that bill would put the money that officer invested back, it would give them their money back with interest, but the taxpayers would no longer be on the hook for acts that are felonies. So Derek Chauvin, who murdered George Floyd, we all know when he turns 55, he's going to get his pension while he's in prison. And the taxpayers are going to be paying for that for the rest of his life while he's in there. And so after a $27 million settlement, we don't think that the taxpayers should be on the hook for that. And so we want to make sure that any other officers, if there's an officer that commits a felony while under the cover of law, they will no longer be able to rely on the bill of taxpayer. to supplement their life. So.
Also, the first one is ending pretextual stops. We currently have a bill that's modeled on what Minneapolis is doing, but essentially, there are a variety of criminal laws that, criminalize minor, non-violent traffic infractions. For example, having something as simple as an air tag hanging on your rear mirror can get you pulled over, and it is really ripe for abuse by state officials who don't have any other safeguards. So we would want to end that practice across the state.
One of our other legislative priorities right now is ending the involuntary administration of ketamine on arrest. So presently in the state of Minnesota, if someone is arrested, the officers will often claim that someone is in a state known as excited delirium, which is a medically debunked condition. And then without the authorization of a doctor, they can administer ketamine, which is a Schedule 3 Schedule 3 controlled substance, and better known as a horse tranquilizer. So we're trying to kind of curb that.
Another initiative we're trying to get passed is the Civil Liberties Act. This would create a cause of action for people who had their civil rights violated by people acting under the color of state law. So that is something we are care deeply about, and we are focusing on one of our initiatives.
And quickly, I would like to add that our language for the Civil Liberties Act is not just against conduct by police officers, but against all government agencies or all government officials who may infringe civil liberties.
Yeah, so that's also known as ending qualified immunity. And the basic goal would be that, right, if you have a constitutional violation, that you deserve a remedy, and just because someone's employed by the government doesn't mean that they should be shielded for their conduct. So on that note, one of our other initiatives has to do with the Department of Human Services. So currently in Minnesota, there is a very large workforce shortage within DHS employees. And one reason for that is you have to go through a pretty extensive background study process in order to be given those jobs. And a lot of the times, actually, you can be awarded the job and you'll work for 3 to 6 months while the study gets processed, and then you'll actually have the job taken away from you because you don't pass it. So 2 reforms we have on that front are, one, making sure that if you have a crime that's expunged, it can't be used as a permanent disqualification against you, but you're given the second chance that you've already been adjudicated to deserve. The other one is there's an internal review standard within the DHS, which is currently a preponderance of the evidence standard, which in other words is a coin flip +1. And so if you are held, go to trial for a crime and you're acquitted of the charge, so a jury doesn't find you guilty, internally within the Department of Human Services, there's someone who can determine that I coin flip +1 probably did do it, and thus you can be disqualified.
And finally, we don't have any bill text for this because we just started researching it this month. But essentially, under Minnesota law, the police are allowed to do warrantless searches of your trash. So when you put the trash out for it to be picked up by whatever company you're in contact with, the police can actually go take that trash and then do a warrantless search of that material. And of course, we frequently discard DNA material. So the cops, once they have your DNA material, they can run an extensive DNA analysis known as a SNP profile. And this revealed everything about your health history. They can get mock-ups of what you look like at different ages, where you're from, your familial connections. And they can do all this without a warrant and even create a database with our DNA genetic materials. So we're looking to essentially craft a law that ends this practice. They just did that with vehicles as well as considered public places.
As MJC, we are connected with the University of St. Thomas. So I myself am third year at University of St. Thomas Law School. And Mitch and Tom, there are 2 L's. So with this, we work together with the law school and give the law students like myself a chance to interact with the public and get real world experience and advocate for the greater good. So with this, as you can tell, our clinic is engaged in policymaking and legislative reform and efforts, which involve community engagement and education as well. So as part of the Community Justice Project, we want to thank you for giving us an opportunity as law students to come here and speak as well, to provide some experience for us.
And Jonathan McClellan here is a graduate of St. Thomas Law School. And also the MJC does partner with other law schools such as Mitchell Hamlet. But if we get the next slide, please. So once again, thank you for having us here. And if you want to learn more about our cause, we have some brochures over there. You can also go to the MJC website with this QR code. And if you do support our cause of deregulating the government and ending some of the repressive tactics, there is a donation button because the MJC does run primarily on donations. So yeah, are there any questions?
Have you guys done any work with the flock cameras? Have you heard about the flock cameras, the database that the government is using to track people and where they go?
Yeah, we've been apprising ourselves of that program, and we're looking into that right now. So there's other state officials that are looking into that as well, and they're considering drafting legislation right now for that.
Okay, thank you. I'm working actively with my city to try to stop those. Based on it's one of the government organizations after 9/11. Yeah, Homeland Security is actually the city's money to install these.
I'm interested in hearing what you have to say, so if you can come find me afterwards on that, and I can cross-reference that with what we already know that's going on, and there's a partnership of working. Let's do it.
Are you guys also working on trying to overturn the most recent Supreme Court ruling on the public place safety vehicles?
Yes.
It's ridiculous.
Yes. We are fully aware of it. If we can overturn that, we can bring it.
Yeah.
So, are there any other questions?
Slot you guys work with at all?
We're familiar with what happened in the legislation recently, and we're looking into that. So we know a lot of stuff that's going on right now, and how far we dig into it, or things that we know, how we leverage that, to make other things move. That's what we do.
Volunteers that are not lawyers.
Yes, we do. We do. We have a lot of schools, undergrad programs that come in. We have community members that come in. One of our things that we also do is that we provide community education on leadership and public policy too. So that's something that we offer the community as well. Thank you for your question. Is there any other questions? Once, twice. Thank you guys for having us.
Thank you.
Right, so now I will entertain a motion to take,
Announcement. Auction, silent auction is on Toby's best hits promo, and also for 3 signed Scott Morton books.
was that what was in the box downstairs? Excellent. All right, so before you leave, again, go visit the tables, all the information, meet people, ask questions, do stuff. We also have things for auction, and the money, that those items have been donated to the party, so that would be act as a donation to the party, whatever we get out of the auction. Thank you, Toby, for doing the Black Fest. I don't know, what's the civilian term for that?
Black Fest.
It's just a Black Fest? Okay. All right, and it's, I don't know. Anyways, go look at it. It's got some pretty cool patches on it. And I'll entertain a motion to take a break for lunch. Jake makes motion and Key seconds. All right, all in favor, say aye. All opposed, nay. Okay.
And meeting back at what time?
Oh,
And with that, we will be back at 2:00.